All right, guys, let's hit it. So, biggest day in, and I've tried to record a video. Ironically, I recorded a 15-minute video, and that 15-minute video, there was a malfunctioning after like a 15 minutes, and I basically went on this entire rant in a video that you guys will never see because it got deleted. I went on this rant about how this is the biggest day that I've been alive for in my 28 years of watching college sports. Okay, you basically have UCLA, the kings of basketball, the conference of champions. You have a school out in California. You have a school out in California in UCLA. They are leaving to now play Penn State, play Maryland. I mean, the Pac-12 conference as a whole is dead. The Pac-12 was one of the biggest conferences in college sports. Okay, you have USC, you have UCLA. I mean, you go back, of course, to Lou Alcindor and Wooden. Okay, and then you go back to O.J. Simpson and USC, Matt Leinart, and the power of USC football, all right? So you look at the Pac-12, the Rose Bowl, everything in the history of college sports. You look at how college sports has always been regionalized, or at least in the past 60 years it has been. You have to go back to Michigan and Minnesota winning national championships in 1915, 1920. You have to go back to the days of World War I and World War II before really the Power Five. And then you had the Big Eight Conference in the Southwest. So it's always been a regionalized thing, okay? You've always had schools that stayed tight. Last couple of years, it's expanded a little bit, where you have a school like Colorado that's based, it is kind of West Coast, but it is close to still the center of our country. All right, so you have still you have Colorado, you have Utah, okay, which is very, I don't know if I describe Utah as Pacific Northwest, but it's kind of there. So you've had some of these things happen. You have Tulsa then joining the Americans, so Tulsa and Wichita State have to fly to Temple to play sports, okay? So you've had that. You've had schools in Florida have to go and play other places, all right? But the point is, then you had Texas and Oklahoma leaving. So a lot of people would say, oh, this started with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. But my whole entire theory is that, this is my theory on that, is, first of all, you had A&M in that conference. You have Arkansas and Missouri. So Oklahoma's right down there near Arkansas and Missouri. All right. So they leave to go to the SEC. Texas was always a malcontent in the Big 12. The Big 12, historically, I mean, it's a good basketball conference, but for football, it isn't that historic. Okay. You look at the Pac-12 historically, you look at USC, they are a historic power in football. All right. The Big 12 is filled with good teams, right? Kansas State, with Bill Snyder, got that school running on football. But ever since Nebraska left, it hasn't had maybe the historic, unbelievable successes. I mean, you do look at Texas Tech as a really good team, historically pretty decent, I would believe. But then you have TCU. Who else do you have in the Big 12 then? Baylor. I mean, Baylor hasn't been anything since Art Briles got there. So here's the point about the Pac-12 and the future. I think it's the biggest story ever in my life, because now you're going to have Penn State, you're going to have Maryland and Rutgers going out to play the schools in California. Basketball, the entire basketball landscape of the non-conference, by the way, of the non-con season, is basically, for basketball, you have like Maui Invitational, you have Atlantis. So even though you're an Oregon or Oregon State fan, you're a Stanford fan, you hate the Trojans, you hate the Bruins, okay, of UCLA and USC, you're rooting for them in the non-con in football and basketball so that your conference gets boosted up, so that then you're getting ranked games in your conference in basketball, in football, so that then by the time that we get championship season, the time we get bowl season in the NCAA tournament, you're getting a great seed, everything then comes to fruition in terms of that, because your non-con is strong, your conference is strong. The college football is about conference, it's about regional stuff, all right? Like you're from LA, you're not gonna like Alabama, you're not gonna like Texas, because they're stealing recruits from where you live. and you have a connection. Your best friend might go a couple of states over. Your best friend's going to go to Arizona, and then when Arizona and USC play, you're going to have that rivalry. When Penn State plays the University of Michigan, a lot of people from the Northeast and the Midwest debate whether to go to those schools. You have Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. So it's the rivalries of college football. It's where you go to college. It's where your best friends are. So it's not exactly like professional sports, because still with college in the 90s and the 2000s, where you lived was where you went to college. So it's always been a very regionalized sport. It's always been a regionalized deal. I don't think I can ever remember a school based in California, and a big school. So it's not like we're talking about the American, where we have Wichita State and Tulsa that are decent college football programs playing schools like Temple and UConn. This is the biggest of the biggest. This is the Pac-12. This is the Pac-12 conference dying in a day. That's why it is a monumental day. And guess what? In sports and in life, it's become very popular to hyperbolize things with the internet and other things. But this is the biggest deal in college sports and college football and in college basketball. I'm not even saying whether this is good for the game or not. This is a conversation that literally could be had for hours and hours. Because now you have Oregon and Washington. They're going to have to leave the Pac-12. You're going to have teams flying out 4 hours to play. It is basically like professional sports. It is now going to be a two-team Super League. You used to have a Power 5 conference, 20, 30 years. Now you're going to have two monumental conferences in college sports. The whole structure of the bowl games, the whole structure of the Rose Bowl, of the Orange Bowl, the Rose Bowl's played between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. New Year's Eve, the Rose Bowl. All of that you look forward to in December, the rivalries of USC playing Oregon or UCLA playing against Stanford in California, those rivalries are now gone. Gone. So it's a huge deal. Huge. I think it's the biggest deal because I think it signifies really it's the end of the Power 5 era. I mean, you did have the Big 12 on life support, but you were still going to have four really big leagues, the ACC, the Pac-12. The Pac-12 you thought of as the third most powerful league. You thought of the Big 10, then you thought of the SEC. Then what has a ton of money? It's the Pac-12. Even if they don't have even if their basketball might be struggling, which it has the last probably 5 to 7 years in their football. I mean, you had Mike Leach, but then Arizona and Arizona State's fallen off a cliff. Stanford's been awful. Justin Wilcox has been so boring. All right. Utah just doesn't attract the national gravitas. So the Pac-12 network has been an inconvenience and has been terrible. But you still have the best academic institutions in all of the United States. You still have the money and the power and the backing. You still have big-time cities. You still have Seattle. You still have Phoenix. You, of course, have Los Angeles. You have Stanford, California, the Bay Area, San Francisco. You have big cities, big money, really tremendous academic institutions, some of the best. And you have the history of USC football, the Trojans, and UCLA. You also have Oregon athletics, which is just getting better and better in all of the sports. So you have basketball, you have football. I mean, guys, this is the biggest day that I can ever remember in college sports, because now the Pac-12 conference, all of the rivalries, all of the non-con, the structure of the seasons, it is all going to be absolutely insane what ends up happening. I mean, there is zero stability left in college sports. So I'm not saying that, I've been interjecting my opinion a little bit, saying that I'm a little rattled by the change, meaning like, bam, it hits you and whoa, it's a lot. It's a lot to hit. It's a lot to decipher. It's very good for what we're doing right now, which is talking right now. What are the pros and cons of this move, I guess? And luckily I'm, grew up in the East Coast. I guess I can maybe be neutral in terms of giving a pros and cons list. And of course, in the comments, give all of your thoughts. Let's talk about, should we look at positive first or negative? We're going to talk about the negative here. We'll talk negativity first of this move. And the negativity stems from people that love stability, people that grew up on these rivalries in the Pac-12, people that view college sports as a West Coast versus East Coast thing, which it really primarily is. All right, you have the Conference of Champions, you have UCLA, you have Bob Wooden, you have basketball, and you have really good football now joining the likes of Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. So the negativity is the travel. So a negative, I'll say, is travel. So we're doing pros and cons. The cons is travel. So you're a fan of, in Los Angeles of USC, of UCLA. You're now going to have to travel to Michigan, to Ohio State, so you lose like the ability to travel to these games. I mean, you could fly to these games, but the time change is also going to be very bad for these schools out in the Pac-12. You're going to have to watch sports now at 9 a.m. because you're going to have a game that kicks off noon on the East Coast. So it's bad for the viewer in that sense that likes to have fun on Friday and wants to watch football at a normal time. It's not good. The structure of the Power 5 leagues, it's awful for the University of Arizona, for Arizona State, for Oregon State, for everybody. They've pretty much betrayed and ended this conference. So you have a lot of really decent schools. So if you're a fringe team in schools, it's terrible for you because you're going to lose out on the ability to have congruency. It's really bad for the structuring of the college football playoff. Who the heck knows how it's going to happen now, the non-conference? Who knows how conference play is going to be figured out? You're going to have super leagues. You're going to have have-is and have-nots. And if you're a school like Oregon State and Jonathan Smith, if you're a school like Utah, actually, Utah has been really good at football, has built it the right way with Kyle Whittingham. You've built it the right way, and you've gotten to win Pac-12 championships, and you've gotten a chance to be on the doorstep of the college football playoff. You were building something really special, and you were forming rivalries with Washington and Oregon. That now ends because now it's just in terms of who has money, who has money and who's really the big guy, who is the big teams. And it's becoming more like a professional sports scene where you're having schools play from California and now they're going to be playing on the East Coast. It's awful for the rivalries because even Penn State playing like a Michigan State, for example, Michigan State has to be a school that's very worried. You don't have the funding of Michigan. You're not Ann Arbor, so you're East Lansing. You're grittier. You're a tougher team. All right, in the Big Ten Conference. All right, but now you're going to be having to go against East Lansing's going to have to compete against LA in that market. They're going to have to compete against the money coming in from USC and UCLA. It's very tough if you're a Michigan State. It's very tough if you're Iowa or Purdue. You look at Purdue. Indiana has more money in basketball. West Lafayette, again, I love West Lafayette. It's tough. It's gritty. I like those programs that have to build from the ground up, that really have an identity, like a loyal fan base, okay, not a big city, small town. That's fun. I personally love that. That's what's fun about college sports when you have a team like Purdue come out and they rock and they win games at a high level against Ohio State and against Penn State. That is fun to watch teams from that area have success and grow within their conference and create a rivalry. Now they're in really big trouble because they're going to get ostracized from the conference because, how many teams can honestly play in the Big Ten Conference? How many teams are going to play? You might not have the TV deal of, ironically, Rutgers or Maryland. It's all about TV deal. It's all about big markets, okay? And with NIL, even a school like Maryland that has been awful at football, I guess, for a very long time, Maryland, a school like Purdue is better at football, but I mean, you're talking about Washington, D.C.'s market. You're talking about NIL, all these other things. I mean, Purdue is really in trouble. Even a school like Iowa financially is going to have trouble competing with a USC, with an Oregon. They don't have the pop and sizzle of Oregon. They're not as good, honestly, as Oregon can be, Iowa, because they're not dynamic. Minnesota's even maybe in a little trouble, but Minnesota's located in a big market. Nebraska has a good athletic department. They have really good viewership, but it's not good for Nebraska either, because it puts big pressure on them now. I mean, now the conference just got ridiculous. So it's very bad, and the negatives are it's really awful for these coaches that are trying to navigate their leagues, that have recruited a certain way to beat teams in their league. You look at teams in the Big 12, teams in the Big 12 would recruit cornerbacks because it's a throwing league. The Big 10 is filled with running football, but now you're going to have to play Lincoln Riley. I mean, now you're going to have to play passing teams. It for all coaches and players, I mean, your path in your season just got harder. The travel got harder. The scouting is going to be much tougher. The climates are going to be different where you're playing these games. There's no. I think coaches in sports love stability. They love what they know. They love familiarity. There's none of that right now. There seems to be no leadership. Teams and people seem to be making decisions. Bam, 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 bam. Get it out for yourself. Everybody's trying to quickly do things, and it's monumental news about boosters paying players. It's really, the Wild West in a lot of degrees. There's not a lot of stability. Teams are going to be adding in the conferences. Teams are leaving the conferences. Teams are doing that and that and that. And college sports has always been nice because it's traditional in a sense. I know what I'm getting, okay? On Saturday night, I'm getting USC playing Stanford. Okay, as a college football fan, I'm getting the Big Ten. I'm getting Penn State playing Michigan, and I'm having these types of conversations. Oh, is USC playing a better brand of football right now than the University of Penn State? Is Penn State playing football against Michigan versus USC playing Stanford? What team is better? And then you have people from the West Coast arguing, oh, well, the Pac-12 is actually going to beat. The Pac-12 has better players, and the Pac-12 is going to beat the Big Ten. Or then you have the Big Ten say, no, wait till bowl season. Okay, our schools up here play tougher, better football than the schools out west that are more finesse and more used to passing football. That's what college sports are all about. It's all regional. It's all fun. It's about the rivalries. It's about your buddies, okay, your high school buddies all go to different schools in the Pac-12, okay? Your high school buddies from Chicago, you have one of them who goes to Northwestern, one goes to Michigan, one goes to Ohio State, and then you get to argue, and that's what the attraction of college sports is. It's family arguments. It's you're down in Georgia, and you'll have Auburn neighbors watching with Georgia and Alabama neighbors, okay? It's not like the NFL where you have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are going to rule the South, and you're not going to have Houston Texans fans really coming out of the woodwork. You're not going to have your, I don't know, Eagles and Cowboys fans all sitting together, because college it's intimate. It's when you're 18 to 22 years old, so it's more of it's more regional. So I'm pointing out all the negatives here, okay? I'm pointing out all the negatives that I see, and then I'm going to get to some positives. So I pointed out the negatives, right? So I guess to summarize, it's continuity, rivalries, distance and travel, familiarity, tradition, things that we enjoyed watching, reasons why we enjoyed the sport, the rivalries, the arguments of college football, the lifeblood of it is kind of the arguments of it per se. All right, now let's get to where we're going. All right, the new school of college football. A part of this is actually going to be really fun for college football fans. You could still argue about East Coast, West Coast. The games and the quality that you will be seeing, especially if you're a fan of a school that really has a ton of money and a ton of intrigue, you're now going to be getting USC going to places frequently like USC Penn State, USC Michigan, going to be legendary games, going to be tremendous atmospheres. So I could argue for the fans that are with Michigan and Ohio State, you'll still have those rivalries, but you're going to now have unbelievable games of teams and players that you just have never really seen before and possibilities that are new. You're going to have the slate of college football is going to be absolutely fantastic. You're going to get rid of cupcake games in the non-con, meaning you're going to get rid of when it is awful for the smaller schools that have to rely like in-state on Alabama playing against like a Gardner-Webb. It is going to be bad for those pay-for-play games, but for the fans that are for the fans of college football, you're going to see really competitive products. And if a team is not holding up their end of the bargain, they're going to be cut out. What's going to be the most interesting thing here, or a really interesting component, is why should Alabama look at gaining equal money with the University of Missouri when Alabama football brings in so much more money than Missouri? So ironically, you're going to get Missouri and Arkansas. You're going to get Mississippi State. These schools are going to be borderline kicked out of the league. I believe that Kentucky and Vanderbilt are also going to be kicked out. So you're going to be seeing schools constantly shuffling in and out. It's going to create excitement. There is big-time excitement. You don't know what's happening. It's the unknown. There is real excitement because you're going to be getting the best of the best. You're going to be getting Lincoln Riley versus Harbaugh. You're going to be getting Chip Kelly's going to be playing against Penn State. Oregon's going to maybe join the Big Ten. So you're going to get Oregon basketball is going to be playing against basketball? Michigan State, Michigan basketball. Who's the best basketball? You're going to get Indiana University hosting UCLA every single year. I mean, how amazing is that? John Wooden from Indiana. You're going to get Indiana playing UCLA every single year. Instead of Indiana playing against Nebraska in basketball and Northwestern in basketball, the games are more competitive. That is really the great thing about this. In terms of players as well, NIL is going to continue to get increased. For coaches salaries they're going to make more money, which is great. I'm happy for those guys. I'm happy for coaches at big-time programs who win. I'm happy that they get more money. Okay, they deserve money. I'm usually happy when people who deserve money get big money. That's a really good thing. College sports is going to attract more viewership. It's going to be an even bigger threat to the professional leagues. College football, the recruiting wars now are going to be absolutely electric. All right, you're going to now have new formed rivalries. It's the unknown. It's fun. Okay, this is fun to think about. What is 2024 going to look like? Who's in and who's out? Is Oregon in? Is Washington coming over? It's content upon content, all right? It's fun. The schools that struggle in the Pac-12 or Big Ten, it is now put up or shut up. You cannot just survive. If you're Northwestern and you have a terrible year, this could be a good thing, I guess. It makes it very exciting. If you're not winning, you're not bringing in money, you don't play an exciting brand of football, you're losing. You're a loser in that conference. You're going to get booted out, and somebody like Clemson or Florida State's going to come in. So anything can really happen now. Pandora's box really just opened. I mean, here's the thing, guys. I said Oklahoma, Texas to the SEC. That made sense. It was a regional fit. But now there is no conferences. You can have Florida State recruiting Washington State for the ACC. Okay, now the entire country is open. There is no regional aspect of college sports any longer. It is the biggest monumental decision, really, that's happened. How do I think that this is going to end well or end poorly? I think mostly a lot of it's going to be poor because the tradition and the stability of the sport is now leaving. You kind of, with college sports and everything, you grow up on rivalries. You love college sports because they foster unbelievable just feelings of emotion that you have throughout your entire life because you're playing the same schools, and the new schools are not going to create that same sort of feeling inside. So these rivalries, it is going to be better for, I think, people that haven't grown up a long time watching these rivalries in sports. It's going to be tougher for people that are maybe in their 40s and older. It's going to be tougher to grasp the Rose Bowl not having any meaning, really. So it's just so much change that it's really going to be, it's really crazy. Because with the SEC, honestly, with the Big Eight that you had, like the Big Eight Southwest teams, I mean, you had Nebraska playing against, Texas and Oklahoma. So Oklahoma playing against Alabama, Oklahoma playing in the SEC. Again, you have Missouri going to Florida, so we got used to teams jumping 3 or 4 states east and west to play. But we're not used to the Maryland Terrapins playing conference games against USC. We're not used to college basketball. We're used to talking about teams in terms of the Pac-12 versus the Big East. That's how the committee for college basketball, that's how they pick their teams, is based on conference versus conference. So conferences as a whole are pretty much dead. So it's going to be a crazy, crazy couple of days or crazy couple of weeks, crazy couple of years. It's fluid. It's always changing. So there's going to be good things that come out of it, great possibilities. There's also going to be pitfalls that no one can see because you're sprinting towards something new. So some of it's going to be unbelievable. Some of it's going to be the most fun you've ever had. And some of it could be the worst and the most sad thing you've ever have seen because your school is on the verge, depending on who you root for, your school is on the verge of being in the club or out of the club. It's going to create great competition, and it's going to create real urgency every year to win games, because if you don't win, if you don't raise money, you're not pulling your end of the bargain, you're out. It's as cutthroat as cutthroat because we were used to in the past having stability, having the conferences, being the conferences entrenched. You can have a bad couple of years, not make good money. You can have controversies at your school, bad administration, bad leadership from coaches. Your teams lose, but you're in that conference. You've had the history. You've had stability that you're going to stay. You've had loyalty that we're going to get this thing right. You look at Arizona with Sean Miller last couple of years with all the controversy surrounding DeAndre Ayton, Aaron Gordon, the paying for play. All right. Sean Miller then ends up getting fired, but then Arizona gets right back to playing great basketball. A school like Arizona State, you have a new coach in the Hurley brother. So you have a years of building, and then suddenly in year 4 you're competing in the Pac-12. So you go through ebbs and flows. But now with conference realignment, I don't think you're allowed to have your ebbs. I don't think you're allowed to have really a couple of down years. If Northwestern goes 3-9 again, the beauty of playing in the Big Ten is that, hey, it's Evanston, it's Chicago. It is a great place for the Big Ten. All right, you look at Vanderbilt. We have our conference meetings in Nashville. Okay, we have a great academic institution and a historic university. All right, so we have a historic university. But now, now are you bringing in money? Now you're going to see Clemson, Florida State. Now the whole thing is, Texas and Oklahoma joining was like, whoa, that's a big deal. But now it's over. The Big 12 ending was, or the Big 12 having to add new teams, and that was startling. But now the Pac-12 leaving completely, the whole system, because if you just had Oklahoma, Texas go to the SEC, you have the Big 12 be like your fifth best league or fourth best league, and the Pac-12 stayed together, you would survive the storm. But now in terms of conferences and the Power Five can't survive the storm. You literally have your two biggest players in USC and UCLA. They're now going to the East Coast to play a lot of games. It's like, oh my, no, it's a knockout. It's Mike Tyson coming in. Bam. All right. It is Lennox Lewis coming in and uppercutting you and uppercutting the Power Five leagues. It's over. It's over. The Power Five leagues. Wow. It's done. What a day in college sports. What a day. We're just getting started here, guys. Leave your thoughts and comments. Again, thank you so much for watching. The subscriptions and everything, they're great because, I'm really motivated to make a video, even more so when you guys, comment, when you guys, watch these videos. It is great. I enjoy making videos, going to probably continue to do it, but it gives you even more incentivization for a new channel, right? To really build this community. So it's a lot of fun. I really appreciate all the comments and you guys watching the vids. It is awesome. I don't want to do it just for views and things, but it is appreciated. All right. There's no doubt about it. It's appreciated. But again, college sports is so much fun, and the diehards here that come down to comment on these videos, it's fun. It could be 5 of you guys. We're going to have fun. And this story is just so huge that it's obviously appropriate to make a long video about it. We didn't even cover everything we could have. But again, thank you guys, and more videos to hopefully come soon. See you guys. Thanks.